Can you please start, doctor?
Happy afternoon, ma'am.
Hmm.
Ma'am, we are waiting for Maheshwari ma'am to join in, and someone has joined from an iPad. If they
Hmm.
could rename it so that we'll know who it is. And
Hmm.
Shraddha, can you give a call to Maheshwari ma'am, please?
Yeah, I've only joined here. Just 1 second. There is some
Acha,
yeah.
acha,
I
sorry,
just share
ma'am.
the screen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you able to see the screen now?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Happy afternoon.
Shall I start, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am. All the best, ma'am.
Happy afternoon, all. Today, I'm just presenting a small topic. Every day when we are finalizing the trigger, we'll have a dilemma. Whether should we trigger or should we wait one more day, because one follicle will be around 20 to 23. The others will be smaller in size. What we think is we might compromise the larger follicles so that the intermediate one will grow like that. We'll wait one more day and all. That is how I found this article very interesting. So I'm presenting this. So this states, does a large follicle more than 24 follicle yield a competent oocyte or an embryo? So the background is controlled ovarian hyperstimulation is a crucial step in ERT. The ovarian follicles grow at a different rates, and controlled ovarian hyperstimulation monitoring is usually guided by follicular size rather than their competency. Studies have shown that follicles with greater diameter were most likely to reveal mature oocytes, which are capable of fertilization and best suited for development into high-quality embryos. The data exist both in human and animal models on the optimal follicular growth on the day of oocyte retrieval that are most likely to yield a mature oocyte. The follicle of an average 16 to 22 are more likely to yield a mature oocytes than a smaller follicle, while larger follicle would more likely to yield post-mature oocytes which are not competent for fertilization. Earlier studies and all, they were telling if the follicle size is more than 20 whatever the oocyte we get, they are post-mature and they will not fertilize. So, however, while Dubé et al. Observed a comparable fertilization rate in oocytes from 16 to 22 follicle to those from 22 to 26 follicle. So here in this study, what they have done is they have categorized into oocytes obtained from 16 to 22 follicle, and the other group is 22 to 26 follicle. They have studied how many oocytes were obtained, how many fertilized, and what was the quality of the embryos which were obtained in both the categories. So they tell it is the fertilization rate is comparable in both the groups. In one more study, Hector et al. Observed that follicles of 16 to 23 on the day of oocyte retrieval, this is on the day of oocyte retrieval, had higher fertilization rate than those of more than 23 However, the percentage of good scored oocytes was demonstrated to increase from 55.4% of follicle size between 16 to 23 to 64.6 of the follicle more than 23 So here in the study, what they have done is they have divided into two groups. One is between 16 to 23 of the follicles on the day of oocyte retrieval. That is, after giving trigger on the day of oocyte retrieval also, they have measured the follicles. So they have divided into 16 to 23 one group and more than 23 in the other group. So they have studied how many oocytes were obtained, what was the oocyte quality, fertilization, and also the embryo quality. So in this, they have told the good higher fertilization rates were obtained between 16 to 23 But when we check the quality of the oocytes and the quality of the embryos, it was 55.4% between 16 to 23 oocyte follicle, and it is 64.6 in the follicle more than 23. When the follicle is more than 23 even though if we get less number of oocytes, the oocyte quality as well as the embryo formation were good according to the study. So recently, this is I've taken directly from the article. So recently we demonstrated in a cohort prospective study evaluating the association between the follicle size that is maximum dimensional size larger than more, that is more than 16 mm. Medium is between 15 to 13 mm, and smaller is less than 13 mm. And the oocyte and embryo quality, that M2 rate was significantly higher in the large and medium compared to the small follicular group. This all of us know it. So nevertheless, there was no in-between group differences was observed in fertilization, nor in the top quality embryos rates among the mature oocytes, regardless of the follicular diameter they originated. One interesting thing about this prospective study was, so even though the number of M2s were less in less than 13 mm follicle, whatever the M2 obtained, they fertilized very well, and also the embryo quality was also good compared to 16 mm follicle. That is what they mean to say. So because of this prospective study, it prompted by the aforementioned observations, we wanted to evaluate the association between the larger follicle, that is more than 24 mm, and the oocyte development and the quality. For this purpose, we reanalyzed the data from our previously published cohort prospective studies. So here the aim is to evaluate the effect of large follicle size more than 24 mm at the day of oocyte retrieval on oocyte or embryo quality. So materials and methods, the data used in the study were collected in a cohort. So they have taken one studies, whatever the cohort was there in a prospective study, they have taken the same data that has been reported elsewhere. So women undergoing controlled ovarian stimulation using multiple dose GnRH antagonist protocol between July 2018 and May 2019 in a single university affiliated tertiary medical center were included. Only those women less than 43-year-old without history of endometriosis or Fragile X gene mutations were included. Data on patient age, infertility treatment related variables, and ovarian stimulation characteristics were retrieved from women's medical file. Decision of final follicular maturation trigger was based on physician judgment. The timing was based on the lead follicular cohort, usually with at least 2 leading follicle measuring more than 15 mm for maximal diameter. A transvaginal sonography guided follicular aspiration was conducted 36 hours after trigger administration. So before doing OP also, they have done the scan and they have allotted into 2 groups. So at retrieval, up to 4 leading follicles were measured before aspiration from each woman. Follicles were divided into 2 follicular groups according to their maximal dimensional size. Normal, one group that is less than 24 mm and a large follicular size group that is more than 24 mm. Retrieval was done separately for each follicle measured. Microscopic examination of the follicular aspirate was performed by the embryologist. In case where no oocytes was detected, flushing of the system was performed using 0.5 to 1 cc of medium with HEPIs. Routine IVF or ICSI was then performed as appropriate. Each embryo was cultured separately until transvaginal ET was performed 48 to 72 hours after OP. All patients received the luteal support with progesterone. Embryo classification was based on the individual embryo scoring parameters, where top quality embryos were defined as day 2 or day 3 embryo with 3 to 4 cells. That is, on day 2, 3 to 4 cell stage, and day 3 is 7 to 8 cell respectively, with less than 10% fragmentation. The information for each oocyte starting from the follicular size was followed through all the laboratory procedures, including insemination, oocyte stripping for ICSI fertilization, and embryo culture. Primary outcome was defined as the number of oocytes retrieved from each of the follicular group, that is oocyte recovery rate. Secondary outcome included oocytes undergoing M2, fertilization rate, and top quality embryo rate. The subgroup analysis, which we present here, was not planned in original protocol. The cutoff to be analyzed was chosen after completion of trial. The results obtained during the study period, 199 women met the inclusion criteria, from whom 428 follicles were measured, which included 383, that is 89.5%, were into the normal group, that is less than 24 mm, and 45 oocytes were in the large follicle category, that is 10.5. So when they observed all the oocyte retrieval rate, all the things, they started comparing all the parameters. So in between the groups, there was no difference between the BMI and controlled ovarian hyperstimulation characteristic. Oocytes were achieved during aspiration from 297 patients. That is, in a normal group, the oocyte retrieval rate was 77.5%, whereas in a larger group where it is more than 24 mm, the oocyte retrieval was also 64.4. Sometimes during stimulation, what we think is if the follicle is more than 24 mm, we think it is compromised, we won't get any oocytes. But here the oocyte retrieval rate was 64.4%. So respectively. So no in between group differences were observed in fertilization, top quality embryos rate per follicle. Nevertheless, once the zygote, that is 2PN, was achieved, a trend towards a high top quality embryo rate per 2PN was found in larger follicular group. So when they have analyzed the data, like whatever the embryos obtained, the top quality embryos versus 2PN was found in a larger follicular group. So even though the retrieval rate was more in a normal follicular size group, the top quality embryos rate was more in larger follicular size group. In the present analysis, while the oocyte recovery rate was non-significantly decreased in follicle more than 24 mm, the ratio of 2PN and top quality embryo per follicle were comparable. Moreover, the zygotes derived from the large follicle, that is more than 24 mm, yielded a non-significant higher top quality embryos or embryo rate. The association between follicular size and oocyte maturity has been studied already 3 decades ago, and it is dedicated that timing of final oocyte follicular maturation trigger whenever several follicle reaches a diameter of 17 to 20 mm. In our previous study, we demonstrated a higher oocyte retrieval rate in larger, more than 16 mm, and medium follicles compared to small follicles, finding which is consistent with previous studies. Moreover, M2 oocytes were more commonly found in medium and large follicles. So in the prospective study conducted, which included 991 follicles, fertilization rates of mature oocytes as well as rate of good quality embryos showed a tendency to increase from smaller follicular group to a large follicular group. However, this finding was not very significant. Dubé et al., one more study which was done by Dubé et al., reported that oocyte fertilization rate has a positive linear correlation with follicular diameter increase, as already we know. So in one more study, they demonstrated that matured oocyte retrieved from a smaller follicle generated of low development potential than oocytes derived from the larger follicles. So in this study, what they have done is normal 17 to 20 mm, whatever the oocytes obtained, they have checked the quality, embryo quality separately, and also from less than 15 mm follicle, whatever the oocytes obtained, how they have formed the embryos and their quality, they have checked. So they have they stated that if the follicle less than 15 mm, the developmental potential will be less. So in majority of the studies, larger follicle rate relate to those more than 16 mm. Only few considered larger than 24 mm diameter also. But in present study, we observed a non-significant decrease in oocyte recovery rate in follicle more than 24 mm with comparable 2PN and top quality per follicle ratios, top quality embryos per follicle ratios. When we consider the ratio, the quality of the embryos as well as 2PN state rate was very good in the oocytes obtained from a follicle more than 24 mm also. However, once a zygote was recovered from a larger follicle that is more than 24 mm, a non-significant higher top quality embryo rate was also observed. In accordance with our observation, Ectes et al. Study also observed that follicle of more than 23 mm on the day of oocyte retrieval had a higher maturation rate compared to those of 23 mm. In most centers, final follicular maturation is triggered once 2 to 3 follicles reach at least 17 to 18 mm in diameter, actually 2 days prior to the oocyte retrieval. Sometimes few follicles reach the required stage while the other are still smaller or medium size. it is common to sacrifice the larger on behalf of allowing the development of smaller cohort of follicle. This is the dilemma every one of, like each one of us face day to day when we are giving the trigger. So what we think is we can sacrifice the larger one, let this intermediate grow, will wait 1 day or 2 days, like that we will plan. In the present study, we demonstrated that by letting the follicles to develop to a larger diameter, that is more than 24 mm, not only are they not sacrificed, but they also have a good probability to yield M2 oocytes. And once recovered, they will develop a top quality embryos. So even if it is more than 24 mm in size, so almost 64% recovery, oocyte recovery rate is seen. And also the amount of M2, like M2s formed, as well as the embryo quality, when we are concerned about embryo quality also, the quality is also good. What we generally think is if the follicle is more than 24 mm, we think it is post-mature, they won't fertilize, even the embryo quality will be bad. But it is not like that according to the recent studies. Coming to the strength and limitations of the study has several limitations in that women included in the study were treated for infertility due to various reasons. Here, they had many indications for the treatment. They didn't tell about in inclusion, only 2 criteria was taken into account. Furthermore, treatment protocol were not homogeneous to all study population. Therefore, follicle were exposed to different gonadotropins and trigger modes were included. Here, the type of GnRH antagonist protocol, they have selected all patients undergoing anti-stimulations only. But the follicles were exposed to different gonadotropins. Whatever the gonadotropins used, the brand, the dose were slightly different. Moreover, since we analyzed only 383 follicles in the normal and 45 in the larger follicular group, so there is a huge difference between the number in both the groups. The risk of type 2 error is still possible. Although various studies exist concerning the association between follicular size to oocyte recovery rate at retrieval, data relating to the large follicle, that is more than 24 mm, are very scarce. This study strength is in its being conducted in a single center by professional consistent team on a large study group, since it is done only in a single center. The conclusion of the study is, in summary, the result of the study indicate that while the oocyte recovery rate was non-significantly decreased in follicle more than 24 mm, but the zygote and the top quality embryo per follicles are comparable. Moreover, the zygotes derived from a large follicle that is more than 24 mm yielded a non-significantly higher top quality embryos. This information should be of value to the physician and patients alike. Further investigation is required to strengthen this finding. Because sometimes patient will ask how many follicles are developing, what is the size, will we get the oocytes in that and all. So this information will be will have a lot of value.
Doctor, the clinical implications,
Ma'am, clinical implication is mainly what we think is if the follicle is more than 24 mm, we tend to think we will get post-mature oocytes. And also the quality won't be good, embryo won't form like that. So thinking that what we do is, even though when we have to wait for 1 more day, we tend to give trigger early. So that's what in the study they are telling, even if the follicle is more than 24 mm, the oocyte retrieval rate will be around 64%. Even if the embryo forms, it will be of good quality. No need to give the trigger early if the other intermediate follicles are more.
So we can wait for 1 more day.
1 more day, if the progesterones and other parameters are normal. When 1 or 2 follicles are 20 on that day, if the follicle are 22, 23, and the others are in the range of 15, 16, we think the oocytes will be post-mature, will give trigger like. So he is telling even if it is more than 24, we will get oocytes and also the embryos. Even though the number of oocytes may be less, if it is between 16 to 23 mm group, retrieval rate is around 75%. Here, more than 24 mm, the retrieval rate will be around 64%. Only that is the difference. Whatever the oocyte we obtain, they will be mature. If they are mature enough, even the 2PN state as well as the quality of the embryo will be good. That is what he is trying to tell.
See, we are doing a scan today and we are finding 3 follicles more than 17. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Should we give the trigger or wait for one more day?
Ma'am, if intermediates are like here in the study, they have given the trigger, ma'am. If at least more than 3 to 4 follicles are more than 17 mm, they have given the trigger.
Ma'am, in your case scenario, if in case we find that the intermediates are more, like we have already have 3 follicles of 17 mm, but we have around 5-6 follicles of around 15 mm. So instead of giving trigger, though the criteria for trigger is fulfilled, it is better to wait for a day, depending on how many intermediates you still have.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
If the follicle size is large, we tend to give off trigger early, no, ma'am, thinking the quality will be post-mature, we won't get good quality embryos and all. So in those cases, we can wait.
The level of evidence for this, doctor?
Ma'am, here the number of patients studied, it is a single center, ma'am. Number of patient studies were also less. Here, what in this study, what they have done is they have taken the data from already a prospective study they have conducted, same data they have taken and they have analyzed. So still further investigations is required to strengthen the finding. That is what they have given in conclusion. More number of patients has to be included.
Okay. Thank you, doctor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Swati, you can share your screen now. Yeah, we can see. All the best.
Thank you. Ma'am, can you hear me? Hello. Okay. Happy afternoon, ma'am. So today I'll be talking about the impact of injecting immature oocyte and how the embryo will be formed. So first, coming to the basics, what is germinal vesicle? It is the nucleus of the oocyte. The GB is large and spherical and contain chromatin DNA. And this
Swati, just make it slideshow, no?
Okay. So in the nucleus, there is a primary function of nucleolus, that is ribosome biogenesis, and other functions like regulation of mitosis, cell cycle progression, and proliferation. There are some other functions like telomerase activity, gene slicing, and growth and development. All this process is highly sensitive to temperature and osmolarity and pH. Next, coming to this is a small video which shows how from GB to M2 in a fluorescent confocal imaging.
Labeled in pink and microtubules building up the meiotic spindle are in green. And now you can see the germinal vesicle breakdown, chromatid aggregation, and microtubule nucleation. The assembly of bipolar spindle takes several hours, and chromosomes are aligned just shortly before anaphase. We'll see in a minute. Now, and now polar body has been extruded, and M2 spindle slowly reforms. As you can see here, that on the timer, the human oocyte maturation takes more than 24 hours.
So as you saw in the previous, there is DNA was in pink and then microtubule was in green. So that is how it takes place, and the maturation takes place in oocyte. So this is one more image which shows chromatin configuration of oocyte, germinal vesicle, GVBD, and then M1 and M2, the polar body extruded, and this is meiotic spindle near to the polar body. So this is how basically in an animated picture it looks like this, how GV has organelle inside. This is GV and it is surrounded by mitochondria, and you can see the meiotic microtubules all over the GV. And these are Golgi apparatus and cortical granules, and this is how the immature oocyte looks like. And when it is GVBD in that phase, it look you can see the scatter of mitochondria, and actin filaments are in the cortex region, and this is M1 here, decondensation of GV, and you can see the meiotic spindle is in the center, and then after M1 it is in the cortex region. So this is how it goes on, and GV is tetraploid amount of DNA due to there is 46 double-stranded chromosome is present. And this stage is arrested due to high levels of cyclic adenosine phosphate. And then once the oocyte is mature, these are the function which takes place. That is haploid nucleus and zona pellucida and corona radiata, cortical granules and mitochondria. So all are in its place basically. Next, coming to oocyte maturation process. Now we know from when the oocyte goes from GV to M1 to M2, we can see morphologically. But there are different process which takes place, that is oocyte maturation. There are two types of oocyte in maturation. One is nuclear maturation and one is cytoplasmic maturation. In nuclear maturation, that involves, as we know, chromosome segregation, that is extrusion of polar body. But when it comes to cytoplasmic maturation, there are many organelles are involved in it, and that helps in reorganize and store the mRNA, which is helps in the further development of embryogenesis, and cytoplasmic enzyme, protein, transcription factors required for oocyte maturation, metabolic substrate that are crucial for further development of embryo. Next, coming to the maintenance of meiotic arrest as well as meiotic resumption is highly coordinated system. They always in synchronous between follicle cell and the oocyte. Chromatin condensation, organelle redistribution, and cytoskeletal changes are only a few examples for the event takes place during oocyte maturation. After acquisition of capacity to resume meiosis, so here two types are there. One is nuclear competence and developmental competence. Once the nuclear competence is achieved, next it undergoes fertilization and further development of embryo, that is called as developmental competence. Is also required during follicular growth and after the oocyte has reached nuclear competence. So we can see nuclear competence has happened in the oocyte, but when it comes to developmental, there are other processes again involved, that is relocation of ribosome and mitochondria, reorganization of endoplasmic reticulum, the storage of essential transcripts during early embryo development, and the ability to modulate calcium release. So here in this image, we can see where the spindle fiber is. Right? So it's in the center. So coming back to that, when we inject M1, so we are definitely damaging meiotic spindle. I'll come to the topic when if we keep it for culture as well, what happens. So we know this in vivo maturation process, complete nuclear and cytoplasmic maturation of oocyte is essential for activation of oocytes and fertilization and the development of embryo. In natural cycle, LH surge initiates the resumption of meiosis in the oocyte, hence completes the final maturation of the oocyte. But in stimulation cycle, when HCG has been used to induce oocyte maturation in a controlled environment, and oocyte is arrested at M2 with the presence of an extruded first polar body. Cytoplasmic maturity may not be synchronous with nuclear maturity in the stimulating cycle. The fertilizing ability of an oocyte with a mature nucleus is not necessarily at maximum potential. So the study done by Daniela, the asynchronous ovarian response with numerous immature oocyte at ovum pickup can be indicative that overall ovarian follicles were less responsive to ovarian stimulation, and the oocyte considered maturation in the same cohort may not be fully competent for fertilization and embryo development. So even in his study, it is stating that maturation is important, both nuclear and cytoplasm. It was possible to correlate that stimulation protocol with the incidence of immature oocyte since stimulation with exclusively recombinant FSH was associated with higher GV M1 oocyte rate with comparison with recombinant FSH associated with recombinant LH and GnRH agonist and antagonist pituitary suppression protocol. So another study which states that small follicles containing M2 may have achieved nuclear competence, but not necessarily cytoplasmic competence. Also, the cytoplasmic maturity has recently been shown to be associated with oxidative stress can arise by the oxidative phosphorylation carried out by mitochondria and by the endoplasmic reticulum stress signaling. As the high bioenergetic level of small follicle can lead to early burnout, reflected in morphokinetics of top good quality blastocyst and implantation rate, thus reducing higher rates of developmental arrest and direct cleavage rate. In the same study, he says that it is not necessarily all follicles respond to FSH, yet have enough LH receptor to respond to maturation signal introduced by HCG. So there is still a question mark in some studies which says GnRH antagonist cycle, a physiological increase in FSH level during the luteal follicle transition phase provokes a heterogeneous follicular development leading to slightly lower maturation rate when compared to agonist cycle. There is still research going on this topic. Then the highest rate of top and good quality blastocyst was achieved in embryos containing large follicle in homogeneous cycle. A higher rate of direct cleavage and developmental arrest were observed in embryos obtained from small follicles. The fertilization of mature oocyte derived from cycle with heterogeneous follicular development can lead to abnormal early embryo development and lower blast quality. So when we keep these embryos in IBM media, okay, the GB, M1, so what happens to these embryo when before injecting if we have retrieved? So now we are keeping it in IBM media. There are studies which says abnormal development after IBM may rise to some deficiency in oocyte maturation that lead to spindle defect. And then there are meiotic spindle damage, which again leads to aneuploid embryos by inducing unbalanced disjunction and non-distension of cystochromatid. Studies reported that oocyte in vivo, matured oocyte at retrieval stage results in higher pregnancy rate, whereas immature oocytes like GB and M1 subsequently mature in vitro rarely result in viable pregnancy. Lee et al. Suggested that IBM could impose deleterious effect on spindle and chromosome organization in immature human oocyte. So IBM here says in ICSI cycles outcome in arrested IBM M1 oocyte results in degeneration, fertilization arrest, and 1 PM, as there is embryo originating from aged oocyte. Aged oocyte means if you are doing ICSI next day or after 6 hours or 12 hours, that is called aged oocyte. And next has increased incidence level of abnormal skeletal organization and chromosome imbalance. M1 oocytes which are unable to undergo maturation as a result of complete absence of spindle formation or failure of the oocyte to enter M phase. In this study, the injection of M1 oocyte immediately after denudation and the injection of arrested IBM M1 oocyte showed a higher degeneration rate that can be explained by increased fragility of the oolemma following ICSI. The extrusion of first polar body may indicate the changes in the oolemma or the cytoskeleton, leading to improved elasticity of the membrane, and which is important for successful ICSI. So then when we say that there was no break, it means that there was no elasticity of the cytoplasm here. So that is the reason we can observe degeneration in such oocytes. And then another study found that M1 oocyte incubator for long period, that is 24 to 36 hours, led to development of poor quality embryos, less blastocysts compared with the outcome from M2, as I said, aged oocyte. Next, another study states that the majority and the other majority studies shows consistently lower fertilization rate in vitro matured M1 oocyte compared to sibling in vivo matured oocyte. The proportion of poor quality embryos was higher after in vitro maturation. This is in accordance with the other publication, which describes more cleavage arrest, a high number of multinucleated blastomeres, and a reduced development to blastocyst stage after IBM Longer incubation period of M1 results embryo originating from aged oocyte has increased number of, again, the many studies states that there is always abnormal cytoskeletal organization, chromosome imbalance. This is all nuclear level imbalance takes place. Cytoplasmic immaturity, which is generally associated with poor fertilization rate and reduced developmental potential, may also reflect a potential susceptibility to post-meiotic chromosomal errors. The next study says that the morphological normal embryos derived from M1 oocytes after retrieval may have reduced implantation potential because they frequently display chromosomal abnormalities. So the conclusion what here says that the immature oocytes which are cultured further may not result in viable pregnancy. GB and M1 oocytes, if converted to M2, but can result in chromosomal abnormality, cytoplasmic incompetence, and abnormal embryo development. IBM media can have deleterious effect on oocyte and meiotic spindle formation, as it is very sensitive to physical and chemical change in vitro culture. Injecting immature oocyte can result in reduced fertilization rate, abnormal cleavage, aneuploidy embryos, lower implantation, and pregnancy rate. So putting all this together, when we culture the embryos, these are the effect on embryo. That's what all the studies says. Thank you.
So it's not advisable to culture GVs and M1s to M2 and then inject?
No, ma'am. They say if there are very less oocyte, then they can, we should already counsel patients saying we might not get good embryos if there are no much oocyte. Otherwise, it is not advisable to inject M1 GV because if it is cultured in vitro, it is already sensitive to a lot of things like pH, osmolality. So that is the reason it's not advised, ma'am.
That's the reason you people throw away M1 and GB.
Yes, ma'am. We don't want to give aneuploidy or poor quality oocyte, so we don't prefer injecting them.
Very smart.
But
But you
ma'am,
have
we will
done
be
it very
doing
well.
this IVM culture only in those cases where we have less, right? If we have already more, we will not be doing it. If the
Only pure patients where we have less oocyte, like.
So even if with all the studies quoted, they have not told not to do. It is a chance of may or may not. So there is no harm in taking the chance.
But usually they don't implant and results in chromosomal abnormalities.
That's what.
What is the percentage, ma'am?
Usually, it is usually not like 100%. It will not implant 100%. It will result in failure. So it's just a matter of taking a chance when we don't have the required number of embryos. If we have, then why we will do it?
Yeah.
Because last case also is distancing, no, ma'am, when M1 was more.
Fertilization rates, what is the outcome of patients done that in the past? What is the pregnancy rates and live birth rates? We should have, you should have quoted those.
Okay, ma'am.
This is done something for patients when it's a dire requirement who have very less number of oocytes for ICSI.
Yeah, they have said that as well, ma'am. If there are no oocyte, there are only, if in a cycle, if they have retrieved only M1s or GVs, then the culturing and going ahead. But patient has to be prepared and said that this could be the outcome. So they have to be counseled for that. Is also said in few studies. They have not told like we have to discard if the oocytes are there.
That's a known truth that it is low, but at least what could be the approximate pregnancy rates and live birth rates? Then yes, it would have be either encouraging or discouraging for us to whether to do the culture or not.
No, Swati, you take some other article which Dr. Chaitra is telling, CPR and implantation rate and live birth rate.
Okay, ma'am.
You search for that article and post it in the group so that it will be complete.
Yes, ma'am, I can do that. I have many articles, but I have not mentioned that. But I can, share the articles with ma'am in a group. Yeah, I can share all the articles so that it will be easy for them also to refer.
Not all the articles. Yeah, we don't have time. That one particular article.
Ma'am.
Only in the Swati, in the tabular form, will you mention like injecting the M1 after culturing, how many M2s were there? Like what was the embryo quality implantation rate, aneuploidy rates if PGS was done? And what if M2 were injected like that? There are many studies. Just show us the percentage. What is the percentage? It
Yes,
is not like zero fertilization, zero implantation. No.
No, it is not
This
zero.
is last case, like out of 6 follicles, which were more than 16 very good follicle size, still we had 5 M1, 1 M2.
Correct.
So that's what I was telling you. We can take a chance instead of discarding the M1s.
We can
You're
inject
prepared
them, ma'am,
to-
but yeah, I'm just telling what could be the possible outcome of those
Understood.
embryo is what I was telling.
We will
So I
culture
can share.
separately and freeze it now.
We are
Hello?
actually injecting, ma'am, when the oocytes numbers are very less now, then we are taking a chance also, and we are doing rescue ICSIs also sometimes. But ultimately, we are seeing very poor quality embryos on day 3, ma'am. And we have decided that in our earlier meeting, saying that if it is less than 8 numbers of oocytes, then we will take a chance and inject this immature oocytes after turning to the M2
Yeah.
stage. Yes, ma'am. We are practicing that, ma'am.
Okay. Good presentation, Swati.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swati ma'am. Chandru sir. Chandru sir, you can start
Happy
sharing.
New Year,
Yeah.
Happy New Year to all, madam.
Yeah, okay.
1 minute. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
What madam is screen on?
Swati ma'am, can you stop share your screen so that the Chandru sir can share the screen? Yeah, sir, you can go ahead now.
Hello. It's visible, ma'am.
No, sir, we are not able to see.
And share. Actually, I'm using my mobile. And that, how can I share that documents?
Sir, you will get a share option there.
Yeah, sorry, share option is there. In that,
Once you click that particular slide, then
Yeah.
again you have to give share. Then it will be displayed here.
ಚಂದ್ರು
Unsupported.
ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಿನಿಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ನೀವು
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅದು ಅನ್ಸಪೋರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಅಂತ ಬರ್ತಾರೆ ಮಿಸ್ ಕಾಲ್
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿ ರೆಡಿ ಇಟ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ತಾನೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ಸ್ ಎಂಬ್ರಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾಯ್ಬೇಕಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ
ಮೊಬೈಲ್
ಅದು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಮಂತ್ ನೀವು ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ್ನೆ ಇದ್ವಿ
Sir, can you send the PPT to me so that I can share?
Yeah, okay, 1 minute.
You can send it to me.
And your mail ID, ma'am?
Sir, you can send me to WhatsApp, sir. Mail ID, it will be difficult.
You received, ma'am?
No, yeah, sir, I received one.
ಇನ್ನು ಎಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತಮ್ಮ?
ಆಯ್ತು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್. ಯಾ ಚಂದ್ರು ಸರ್, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್.
ಮಾಡಪ್ಪ.
Actually, COVID-19. Today my topic is COVID-19. Nowadays, actually, introductions of COVID-19. That coronavirus disease COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a newly discovered coronavirus. Most people who fall sick with the COVID-19 will experience mild to moderate symptoms and recover without special treatment. And how it spreads means that virus that causes a COVID-19 is mainly transmitted through droplets generated when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or exhales. These droplets are too heavy to hang in the air and quickly fall on the floor or the surface of the areas. You can be infected by everything in the virus if you are within a close proximity to someone who has a COVID-19 or by touching the contaminated surface and then your eyes or nose or mouth, ma'am. Next, how the COVID-19 came. Actually, on 31st December 2019, WHO was informed of a cases of a pneumonia of an unknown case in Wuhan city, China. A novel coronavirus was identified as a caused by a Chinese authorities on 7th January 2020 and was the temporarily named 2019 nCovid, that coronavirus CoV, are a large family of a virus that cause illness ranging from the common cold to a more severe diseases. A novel coronavirus is a new strain that has not been previously identified in humans. The new virus was subsequently named the COVID-19 virus. The symptoms of the COVID-19 is common symptoms, common fever, most common symptoms is fever, dry cough, and less common symptoms like a headache and pains, sore throat, diarrhea, conjunctivitis, headache, and loss of taste and smells, and a rash on the skin. A COVID-19 test. Actually, we are doing a RT-PCR and also rapid antigen and also rapid antibody. RT-PCR is the mainly test we are doing, ma'am. We are collecting the both nasal and oral swabs, and we are sending it for the lab for RT-PCR. RT-PCR means a real-time polymerase chain reaction. In that, we separate the RNA from lysine reagent. Then we can proceed the test in the RT-PCR. This is a 95% of accurate. And rapid antigen is 50% of accurate. We are doing instantly we get the reports in laboratory only. In RT-PCR, they are doing in ICMR, who they upload for ICMR. In that laboratory, they can proceed the RT-PCR. And difference between first wave and second wave of like a coronavirus. We know all like coronavirus, first wave means that is always symptomatic, and the second wave means same symptomatic. And in the second wave of COVID-19, this year, the older populations continues to be a more vulnerable, whereas only a marginal increases has been recorded in the number of younger people testing positive for coronavirus, said Indian Council of Medical Research Director General Dr. Balram Bhargava. Nearly 6 months after the peak of the first wave in September 2020, coronavirus cases in India once again started rising from the first week of March, signaling the arrival of the second wave of the pandemic in the country. The doing an analysis of the first and the second wave of the COVID-19 that hit India 2020-21, respectively, the ICMR DG said that there is no major shift in the way different age groups have been affected by COVID-19 in the two waves. To prevent the spread of COVID-19, mind that clean your hands upon use a soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rubs. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask when the physical distance is not possible. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth, and cover your nose and mouth with like your bent elbow when you are going to cough or sneeze. And stay home if you feel unwell. If you have a fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Next, what is actually first we are preparing for triage area. If what is triage area means that sorting out and the classifications of a patient's casualties to determine the priority of a need and a proper place of treatment. During infectious diseases outbreaks, triage is particularly important to separate the patients like to be infected with the pathogens of concern. And preparing of the triage area, it is like most important. First, clear signs to have healthcare facilities, entrance to direct patients to telemedicine facilities, and those with a fever and like respiratory symptoms like cough or breathless difficulty, immediately the proceed to triage or register in the desk. And additional symptoms to consider: chills and repeated shaking with chills and muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and a new loss of taste or smell. And like when protecting the healthcare staff, install like physical barriers is very important.
Chandru,
Like, yeah, madam.
ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳಪ್ಪ, ಕ್ಲಿನಿಕಲ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತು.
ಓಕೆ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತು ನಮ್ಗೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ, ಅವ್ರೆಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಮಹೇಶ್ವರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ.
ಓಕೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಓಕೆ.
ಏನೇನೋ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್, ಲ್ಯಾಬ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗು,
ಓಕೆ,
ಎಲ್ರದ್ದು ಸೆನ್ಸಿಟಿವಿಟಿ, ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫಿಸಿಟಿ, ವಾಟ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಫಾಲೋ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ನಾವು ಕೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಮಹೇಶ್ವರಿ ಇವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ವಾ?
ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನಾನು ಬಂದಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಲೀವ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೆ. ಇವರು ಸವಿನೊಬ್ರು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದಾರಾ?
ಮ್ಯಾಮ್ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಮ್ಯಾಮ್, COVID-19 ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಟೆಸ್ಟ್, ದೇರ್ ಸೆನ್ಸಿಟಿವಿಟಿ ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್.
ಎಲ್ಲ ಅನ್ರಿಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಇದೆ ಇದು. ಏನಾರ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ?
How to collect the swab, how to take precautions, and how RT-PCR is done. ಅದನ್ನೇ ಅಲ್ಲಪ್ಪ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್.
ಯಾರಿಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ರಿ PPT?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಅದು ತೋರಿಸಿಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್.
ಯಾರಿಗೂ ತೋರಿಸಿಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಿಂಪಾಡ್ ನೀವೇನೋ ತಗೊಂಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಟೈಮು ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಪ್ಪ, ಎಲ್ಲಾರು ಬಿಸಿ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. PPTs ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಫೈಸ್ ಸ್ವಾತಿ ಅಥವಾ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಮಹೇಶ್ವರಿ ಹತ್ರ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ರ್ಯಾಂಡಮ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನೇನೋ ತಗೊಂಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಡಿ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು, ಆಯ್ತಾ?
ಓಕೆ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಓಕೆ.
Thank you everybody. Sorry for this one.